Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Fiends podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Collier, and I am here with my co-host, Andy Pelican, and we are honored to have the wonderful, the amazing Nora Moon.
Dude,
Totally messed up my name, but that's okay.
it's like you said just like 10 seconds ago. It's the easiest name ever, and
Did I
somehow
say
you messed it.
Nora?
Yeah.
Oh,
Tora
yeah.
with a T.
I'm sorry. I have a character in my book named Nora Nibblefingers. Oh my god. We were just talking about this before the Fantasy Fiends podcast started, and that was how easy Tora Moon's name was. And gosh, darn it. I'm
Well, we
sorry.
start off with a laugh.
So
Yeah.
Stevie, that voice was Yoda meets who?
An orc from World of Warcraft, probably.
There we go. Or the orc from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. Like, looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah, very good.
You don't know that one? That's the skinny orc.
Yeah. And then but that growly tone was sort of the Uruk-hai in that scene. Exactly. Not the one who dies to Aragon.
I feel like I
That's
just ripped my voice cords. What voice cords?
Vocal
Vocal
cords.
Vocal cords.
It's gonna be one of those days on the Fantasy
God.
podcast.
Voice cords. They're now called voice cords. Yeah, I had an orc in my throat. Let's just call it that, Rebecca. That sounds appropriate. So we are here.
Wait. Before we get into this, I have to say that Stevie is a bad influence on me. Today,
Whoa.
I wrote something as a direct homage to Stevie. I've been reading the Jigsaw Blade. I'm 70% of the way, and I binged about a third of the book last night.
Whoa.
And I the constant references to the Gooch Troll, I found it absolutely hilarious.
Yes.
And so today, don't you dab on me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Young man.
I wrote one of the characters calls his dick a cave troll. It needs no explanation as to why it's a cave troll, but it was just like I was writing it, and it was just like a moment of pure Stevie.
Well, I think Tora is now. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm glad that the homage to the secret joke to a penis was in my name. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, the homage. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Cave troll, and I'm stealing that, by the way.
You can't because it's too serious.
Oh yeah. Okay. But
You're going to trademark it like the Cocky Gate, you know?
Exactly.
Oh, don't get me started on that. That's a great topic. Tora, now I think you know how the Fantasy Fiends podcast is. That's how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
We roll down south, if you catch my drift. Anyway, I'm tired, guys. It has been a crazy week. So yesterday was my birthday.
Woohoo! Happy birthday.
Thank you. And my cool thing of the week is, Tora. Wow, Andy, I wasn't going to give her a warning. I was just going to go straight into it this time. This is getting lazier and lazier. Tora, so every podcast we like to, it's become a tradition that we throw the guest author in, and they have to struggle to find something cool that happened to them this week or anytime, really. So it could be anything about your dog, your cat, cave troll, anything. So yesterday was my birthday. I was not expecting all of the gifts. And if you go on Facebook, you will see that my girlfriend Lisa actually did she cooked a whole brownie. It was about 2 by 1, 1 foot by 2, and she painted with icing the entire Jigsaw Blade.
Wait, she actually
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes.
I saw it.
Damn,
she did all by hand.
I thought she got one of those edible photo things that you stick on a cake. I didn't really look at it because Facebook's been glitching on me all day.
Yeah,
I saw it briefly.
Yeah, Facebook was glitchy all day with photos, especially, and if you were trying to do lives.
Yeah, I bet they're freaking out right now. So I got a Nintendo Switch, which I am super excited about, and then Hey Pikachu, the Pokemon game, which I'm excited about, and I'm 27, and I found my first ironically, I found my first gray hair in my beard today.
Ooh.
So I don't know if I'm happy about that or sad about that.
Well, if you're a woman, you'd just color it.
You just color it. Yeah. Hey, I think I'll be coloring my hair when I'm older. They have that shampoo that darkens it.
I'll just be happy to have hair here when I'm older. Like if it goes gray instead of falling out, I'll count that as a 100% win.
Yeah. One last thing, and I'll turn it over to someone else for their cool thing of the week, and that is Podium has sent me the first sample of the Jigsaw Blade, and it was so freaking good. I teared up, and I listened to it 6 times, and that's an hour's worth of listening to it. It is from a actor / film actor or commercial / film actor from the United Kingdom, and this is his first audiobook, and he nailed it.
What's his name?
Kenneth something Kemp, Kemp. I'd have to find it out, and the thing is, I can't share the reel, and I was so saddened by that, but I can't share it yet. They want to keep it secret. But man, it told me right there that the Jigsaw Blade should be listened to, not read. That's how good it was. It was like a movie in my head. I loved it.
That's always cool. The best. That actually, you were talking about reading Lies of Locke Lamora, and I have not turned a page on that book. I have listened to it on audiobook like 5 times because the audiobook, the narrator is just so good.
What's weird is I get through your book, Andy, faster than I do Lies of Locke Lamora, because there's a lot of boring parts and stale parts in Lies of Locke Lamora to like set up the story, I guess.
Yeah.
But yours is just constantly, keeping my attention. So
well, his strength is the world building and his language. It's just
very
beautiful.
True. It is.
There was a time when I first started out writing. I was about a year or 2 into my writing journey, and I would open Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives and Lies of Locke Lamora if I didn't know how to write a sentence. And I stopped opening Lies of Locke Lamora because I would just read the opening snippet when he's talking about, this warren of underground tunnels where in Shades Hill. And I was just like, I will never, ever write this good. And so I just stopped trying. I just modeled myself a little bit more after Brandon Sanderson, whose writing is a little bit more accessible, in my opinion, than Scott Lynch is just.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. So Andy, do you have anything cool for the week?
I do. Did I show off my spear on the podcast already?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can show it off again if you want. Just whip out your spear, please.
I was going to talk about whipping out my magic weapon.
Well, that could be
because that's the kind of podcast we're going to be having in a few weeks. I don't know if there's anything super extraordinarily cool that has happened in the last week since the last podcast. Just a lot of work getting done. This weekend, I've got Geektopia in Vancouver. Super excited to be doing another convention. I love conventions. Are
you nervous?
Fun. Not even a little bit.
You're not nervous at all? It's like selling, and it's weird. I studied that, and I'm still nervous to do it.
The one thing that I've found doing conventions is that I have no problem talking to people about geeky stuff. Whether it's my own books, whether it's Marvel comics or TV shows or whatever it is, I spend the entire day just randomly chatting up people and loving it because there's no one in my life that is geeky. Like I have nobody outside of my my Facebook friends and my podcast buddy that talks geek. So wonderful to be able to go somewhere and just bask in it for a day or 2. I have so much fun. I am on at 9:00 in the morning and I don't stop until the con shuts down at night. It's just so much fun.
And you're a party animal, so when it gets with all those geeks and nerds, it is a lot of fun. It's because they get the kind of things that I get. Anybody who can talk Deadpool for more than 5 minutes is already my friend. Well, I need to read some more Deadpool. Get on it. I think my problem is I still have the imposter syndrome, and I think I've hit 1 million words so far, and I still have the imposter syndrome. I think it's because I grew up with a dad who refused to let me become what he calls a me head or a me person, and that's just always constantly talking about yourself. Yeah. And I kind of just grew like, I want to make you happy, and I don't want to talk about myself. Yeah. Well, that's what sort of got me into this spirit of this podcast, is that when I started talking to people about my book, it was never about, the assassin with the sword and the stabbing and the blood, even though that's tons of fun. It was always about the deeper themes that that made the hunter such a great character. This was back when I first
when I wrote Blade of the Destroyer. It was the only thing I had on the table at my first con. And it was just so much fun to see people connect with this character, the character that people still connect with for the same thing, because he is an outcast, like so many people who go to Comic-Cons. You know, every one of these people are outsiders in their own lives. No one else understands the joy of dressing up in some ridiculous costume or some awesome costume, really, or talking about these things. I mean, look at this. None of my family wears this kind of stuff, but it's just like, and so when you talk to people, when you see, hey, you loved the Punisher for X reason, you love Deadpool for X reason, you love Captain America or Doctor Who or all these things, and then you find this connection with them, and then you find a way to connect them to your story, not the story that you wrote, you know, with the fun words, but the emotions that you're trying to portray. That's when you really start feeling that sense of profound amazement that you've created this thing that people can connect with. And that's really what helps me to have the confidence to say, hey, read this book, because I know that it's a character that they can relate to, that I can relate to.
It sounds like you're just like in limbo with your fantasy stuff, and I picture you like in this valley of just snow, and there's no one around for you to talk to. So Tora, not Nora, Tora. Isn't that
I'm
like
a
a religious
tiger.
book?
No, it's Japanese for tiger.
Really?
Yes.
So it's Tora.
Tora. Oh yeah, because
Tora.
Tora Inu is a dog, a type of dog, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Ko Inu is puppy.
Yes, but no, tiger.
Tora. Do you speak Japanese?
No, I did take Japanese karate for many years. Got my black belt.
Nice.
So I think that's one reason why some of the fight scenes in my stories read really well, is because
I bet they do.
sparred. And then I took some Japanese in college.
I'm so
Awesome.
jealous.
What type of karate?
Japanese style, it was an offshoot of Shotokan.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are old enough, but if you're old enough, I'm old enough that for the original Karate Kids movies with Pat and Marika.
Yeah, I have seen those.
Yes,
But not
the
when they
Japanese martial artist who was doing all of the stunts for that was Sensei Demura, and I knew him, and met some of his students who were the stunt people on those shows.
Wow.
Great, Tor. Now I got to go change my underwear. Thank you so much. No, seriously, that is freaking awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Did you get an autograph, or is that
no?
It'd have been inappropriate.
Yeah, and then
I would have gotten one.
my master, my sensei, our sensei that was over all of us, was the one who trained Arnold Schwarzenegger for Conan.
Ooh.
What?
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
And did Dune.
No way.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm scared to watch Dune because of the pedophile or whatever that I've heard about. Like, that just freaks me out.
Well, the original Dune with can't remember the actor.
Kyle MacLachlan or Kyle.
No, it was the one in the 80s.
The older one.
The older one with Sting. I think it was Sting that did.
Are we talking Sting the wrestler?
No, Sting the singer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
See,
this was the 1980s Dune.
Wow. So you are like, in a way, through osmosis, you are also famous. Through the transitive property, you are famous.
Somewhat.
I wish I could touch you right now. Like, put your hand to the screen. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm famous. That's really cool. Not a lot of people can stick with the martial art, or they move like me. I moved around a lot to get their black belt. So that's on my bucket list, to get my black belt in one of these arts. I just haven't found the one that. So now that I'm staying in Austin, I think I found a Japanese jiu-jitsu place I was telling Andy about that I really want to go and check out. But if it starts hurting my back, I can't do it. So,
well, jiu-jitsu is wrestling.
Yes, I was just hoping they could go easy on me. You know, like, let's do Teletubby wrestling, you know?
Well, jiu-jitsu is called the gentle art, because if you do Aikido, it's against the joints, where Judo is with the joints.
Interesting.
Aikido. You know what? I wasn't going to say anything until I actually went, but there is an Aikido place. Speaking of Aikido, that the guy is he's been given permission to teach. I don't remember what it is in Japanese. Onkyudo or whatever, but it's the Japanese swordsmanship. There's a lot of arts that have the Japanese sword, but this is one with a lineage that I could actually trace on Wikipedia. But it sounds cool. So, but anyway, was that your cool thing, Tora? Or did we?
No, my cool thing is being on this podcast.
Whoa! Now you're just pulling at our hearts.
Pandering to the crowd.
Wow.
Pandering to the crowd. Yes, this is my cool thing, is being on the podcast.
That is
It's actually
so
pretty
nice.
fun.
You're having a good time. Have you
I
been on
am
other
already.
podcasts?
Yeah. I've been on a couple of others. Yeah.
I'm sorry. No,
No, they were fun.
That's good. That's good. There's more fantasy podcasts than I thought there were. So a lot of them are small, and a lot of them are new and growing. I'm excited to say I think the Fantasy Fiends might be the largest right now, if not for Brandon Sanderson's, but that's more writing based.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Fantasy Fiends podcast got more fun whenever I think Andy and I just started letting loose, or Andy had already let loose and I just uncaged me. Like I was the Tora in the cage. He just released me.
Tora.
The Tora. Well, thank you so much, Tora. That's very nice of you. Has anyone ever caught that your name is Tiger and emailed you?
No.
No?
No. But it definitely isn't the Hebrew law, which is with an H.
Yeah, it's got an H at the end. I was thinking there might have been some like Celtic or Gaelic origin to it, but
it's also the feminine form of Thor.
Oh, in Norse?
Mm-hmm.
Good to know. I might have to use it.
Yes.
So speaking of the Japanese language, and this is before we get into the podcast, really quick, the Bizarre Blades has a lot of wacky names for the cities and stuff, and that is actually just mixed Japanese words, and they just sound funny. The main kingdom that we start off in is Shimo, and that is frost in Japanese. Frost. Sumatai is cold-hearted. One of the races is a snake person, and they're Kahabians, which Ka is Japanese for snake, and Hebi or Ebi is Japanese for green. So it's like green snake. Kahabians. So
you use the word. I think the Japanese word for snow is perfect. Yuki.
Yuki, isn't that beautiful?
Or yucky.
Yucky. Oh, nice. That's a great way to remember it. Yucky.
Yeah, it's actually yuki, but I think snow is pretty yucky. That's why I live in the desert.
Do you? Wow, that's like the complete opposite. You must really hate snow.
I do.
You must have grown up with snow.
I grew up in northern Utah, so I grew up with a lot of snow.
So that's why people from Texas love the snow. When it starts like sprinkling the snow, we're like, school's canceled. Get the camera. We've got salt falling from the sky. Actually, we've had some good snow. But like Andy, I want to learn how to snowboard. So
you should come up and visit me in the winter. We've got one of the best. I think it's the second best ski slopes in the country in Canada. 45 minutes away from my house.
You're calling me out now. Now I'm scared.
Boom.
Well, just about 45 minutes from where I live is some of the best skiing in Utah. Is in Brian Head.
Where do you live?
I live by Zion's National Park in southern Utah.
Okay, wait. Let me repeat that question in a better way. Where do you live?
Zion's Park.
Oh, this is going to be a fun podcast. So today we are. I'm guessing a main theme in Tora's book, and that is crossing barriers to solve problems. Which, if you've read Jigsaw, there is that, and I'm sure we'll get into that. Andy doesn't know anything about this topic, so. All right, Andy, we'll see you later. No, Andy, do you want to start or Tora?
Sure. I think it's one of the classic situations that 95% of fantasy novels bring up at some point. Sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, even if they're absolute diametric opposites. A great example of this from my book is in Queen of Thieves, when the thief and the law team up to do something. Like it's the people who are automatically at odds with each other. There's a bigger enemy, there's a greater problem to solve, and so they join forces to solve it. And that's something that I feel like is actually included in fantasy, possibly even consciously, but definitely subconsciously and unconsciously, because the world is so divided right now. I mean, just look at politics. You've got the elections coming up, and everybody is picking their sides. It's all Trump or no Trump. It's Republicans versus Democrats versus libertarian. Like, everything is just so divided right now. And so I feel like there's a lot of this unconscious or subconscious desire for unity. So when we as authors, we write these stories, it's almost like, it's amazing how these horsemen can join with these archers that they've hated for years, and they go and defeat all the evil swordsmen, and love does it again. The heroes win in the end. It's sort of reflecting this desire for that sort of thing in our real lives. And I don't know if it's ever going to be possible, but I feel like as human beings living with fellow human beings, it's sort of our job to find ways to cross these barriers, to reach out across the aisle, as they say, whatever aisle it is, to get people together to working on a problem to solve that problem.
Because when you get right down to it, we all have the same needs. We have the same wants. And just political divides are stupid because it's ideology. And when we look at what means the most to us as people, it's having a place to live. It's having relationships with someone we love and with friends. Doesn't matter what color your skin is. You want the same things. And I think in fantasy, we can explore those issues because it's on a totally different planet.
Yeah,
my stories are totally different planet. Or even if they're on this planet, you've got magic involved or something else to where people can kind of separate it and look at taboos. And we can talk about taboos in our fantasy and in sci-fi where you can't in contemporary fiction.
Yeah, or even just almost reducing or oversimplifying the big complex mess that is religion, race, politics, gender, culture, sexuality, all of that. These are just such complex issues that in our lifetime, in the lifetime of humanity, may never be solved. But in a fantasy story, it's pretty clear. You've got this culture and this opposing ideology. Can I, the author, find a way to make the two meet? And in our life, in real life, it may never happen that way because people may never be as rational or as willing to see the other side. But as authors, we can find a way to bring these cultures together. And in a way, it helps us be more aware of the importance of uniting with people who share contrasting ideologies, methodologies, principles, beliefs, all of that. And I think that in the end, if it ever came down to it, humankind would band together to defeat, aliens or zombies or demons or whatever it is.
Before. You've actually brought that up. Yeah, and I think you've brought it up multiple times. And I think the reason why it stuck out to me is because I think you're right. It's in all of our Hollywood movies. I think down deep, we would stand together and fight something, But real quick, I just want to say, Tora, like, you could be a radio host with your voice. It's awesome. Especially with the whole setup. Yeah, when Andy passes away, you could take his spot. So he's like got to be like, what, 80 now? But I was going to say that what's coming into my mind when we're talking about this subject is I feel like there's always going to be one group that's more than willing to cross that barrier, but there's always going to be that one group that won't do it. They won't meet halfway, and that's the annoying part. Because I've met people where I'm like, okay, I understand. Let's agree to disagree, and I stick out my hand to shake, and of course they're not going to do it.
Yeah,
and that's the characters that I've written in this series, and it's to the point now where it's actually bugging me on a personal level. So I'm leaving the writing. I'm going to go do something the rest of the day. I'm like, damn it, why can't they just get along? And it's actually they'll change. So one will say, okay, let's shake hands, let's be friends, and then it turns to the other one. Okay, let's shake hands. They're just one-upping each other.
Yeah, and again, that's human nature. We all want to be right. That's why so many marriages end. That's why so many political things go to shit, everybody wants to feel that sense of rightness, like their belief, their stance, their perspective is what's right. And so compromising it goes against human nature in many senses. It's not natural for us to yield our territory. I think in a way it could come from sort of the, humans are pretty territorial creatures in the sense that we want to protect what's ours, whether it's our physical property or our intellectual property or our beliefs, the things that we've sort of adopted as ours. So when something comes along that shakes it or contrasts it or goes against it, it's hard for us to be open-minded enough to consider another point of view. And I think that a lot of the characters in stories that become the antagonists or villains are the ones who are unwilling to be swayed by rationale, by emotion, by logic, whatever it is. If they're not willing to sort of compromise and meet the other characters halfway, they become rigid, and that rigidity can often end up making them the villain or the antagonist of the piece, because anyone who does not budge is going to end up running contrary to someone else, no matter who you are or how right you are.
Yeah, people are unwilling to change. And that's when you have a compromise, when you're needing that, somebody has to change. Has to change their thoughts, have to change their beliefs, have to change their worldview. And it's hard to do. We say we want change, but we resist it really bad.
Yeah.
Really a lot. It's like, this is my way and I'm going to hold on to it. But as the Borg say, resistance is futile.
Yes. So I have a question for both of you, and that is, do you think it is right, and I guess there's no right answer to this, but is it right for somebody to knowingly give in a little bit, let the other person win so they can continue on with progress? Or should they never give up on their belief, even a little bit, and keep arguing, not for argument's sake, but arguing their point? Or does it depend on what it is? Because there's people that pull back a little. Like, I don't think Andy would pull back. I don't think he's that kind of person, but maybe he is. Me, I pull back and I let people get ahead, so I can move along with the goal or objective.
Yeah. And I think it depends on what it is.
Okay.
As a parent, you learn what's worth fighting about and what isn't.
You pick your battles.
You pick your battles.
Is that right, Andy?
And if you...
Unfortunately, no matter how right I am all the time, if I fought about every one of these issues with my kids, they would hate me. So,
yeah, it's like, does it really matter if they're watching a particular TV show or not? Sometimes, yes. No, they should not be watching, Game of Thrones when they're 12.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to fight about.
Yeah, they should just sneak and go watch it. Yeah, come on. No. So I'm guessing you're a mother.
Yeah. I have one daughter and one granddaughter.
One daughter and one granddaughter. What?
Yeah.
You look way too young for that. Do I get brownie points?
You get brownie points.
Yeah. I love brownies, by the way. That was my cake.
Right? I know, me too. They're my kryptonite.
Damn. And with a little bit of ice cream. Are you kidding me?
That's the only way I like chocolate cake is with brownies.
Right.
Because I'm not a chocolate person, and so brownies I can do, but chocolate cake, nah.
I'm the same way.
Going back to your question, Stevie, I would say that absolute rigidity and inflexibility in anything is bad. No, I'm not making it dirty, Stevie.
No, I didn't know what rigidity meant. I didn't even know that was a word.
Yes.
Rigid, Stevie.
Yes, I understood that, but it was just rigidity.
Rigidity. Now, if I see the word rigid titty in your book in book 5, I'm gonna know where it came from. But so basically, like I think we were talking about with Rhett and Steve Beaulieu, however you pronounce his last name, Jamie Castle, about one of their characters, the Paladin, who is absolutely uncompromising until finally he sort of comes around and realizes that the thief character that he's working with actually has some value, and maybe he's been wrong before. And it's something that we can easily write into the story. You know, we can write definitive proof that the gods exist or absolutely don't exist, or that the magic system that we staked our lives on is real or false. You know, with fantasy, there's much more definitive. I actually just wrote a scene about that where one guy was doubting his religion, and the character was like, look, you have literal proof in your hand. This magic stone that heals people is proof that your god is real. And that's the kind of thing that we can do in stories. But in real life, I mean, we have no proof. There is no definitive proof. There's a lot of excellent circumstantial evidence, things that point any way you want to cut it. There is a rational argument for a lot of things. You know, flat earthing, well, that's a totally different story. But you know, like no matter what stance you have, if there is absolutely no give, if it's completely inflexible, in the end, there's going to be some weakness, some problem with it. A good example, I watched this episode of a TV show called Ransom, where basically these people are hostage negotiators. And the mother of the kidnapped girl is a prime minister or something with an absolute we will not negotiate with kidnappers stance. And, you know, thanks to her actions, the kidnapping in, I think it was the Netherlands or whatever country she was in, had dropped. But then when it came time for her, you know, the gun to be to her daughter's head,
she had a different story to tell.
Exactly. She had to seriously reconsider it. And I think that had she, you know, spoiling the episode a little bit, I don't even remember what season it is, had she stood her ground and said, absolutely not, they would have put a bullet in her daughter's head. And could she have lived with that? Probably not as easily as she could have lived with her daughter dead.
Oh, okay. No, I'm joking.
Could she have lived with that as easily as she could live with compromising her stance on no negotiating with kidnappers? You know, it's like it's a pretty good example of what happens when you are faced with a choice. If you absolutely refuse to budge, things could get really shitty really fast. So if you have no flexibility, you're going to end up in those situations.
So my brother is someone who's not flexible at all. You can ask anyone. He is not flexible, especially with plan making. My girlfriend's laughing right now because she's learned firsthand. He will throw a fit, which you know, it's kind of admirable because when he wants something, he gets it. And you know me, I'm incredibly flexible. In fact, I will tell someone, make the plans. I'm going to be on the couch reading. Come get me when it's time to leave. That's where I am. So I think, you know, it's kind of, I think of Myers-Briggs when I think about this stuff, you know, personalities that actually match. And I think part of that is the people who give and the people who stand their ground, and they just make a better match.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like a puzzle piece.
It takes a certain sense of compromise. I'm pretty sure there have been times when you were pissed at your brother because he wasn't going to change his plan. As much as you love him, there were days when you wanted to strangle him because he was absolutely inflexible and intractable.
Oh God, yes.
Exactly. So this is granted a very small sibling situation. Now imagine this on a political level.
They push it too far.
Exactly.
They're pushing that flexibility way too far.
Exactly.
And you got to stand your ground.
And that place of inflexibility is where you have conflict.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's where you have your story.
Wouldn't that mean, sorry, go ahead.
When somebody is inflexible and they won't change, and in your story, if you have a tyrant and who is hurting his people, you've got to have somebody who's willing to make that change and say, "Hey, we're going to put you out of our misery."
So are we?
And that's where you have conflict. Is when a lot of times where your villains, like what Andy was saying, they're the ones who are inflexible. It's the people who are more flexible tend to be who we consider our heroes.
That's what I was going to ask you. So the person that is pushing against it is the antagonist usually.
Usually.
Well, Andy, where is the hunter in all this then?
In what sense?
Is he the pusher or is he the flexible one?
Well, it depends on what issue. When it comes to hunting demons, he's absolutely inflexible, which can actually make for a really interesting story because namely, you know, maybe in one of the second story arc books, he may actually find himself running into a demon that he should not kill. Maybe this demon is like him, who's got some bits of good in him, or he's actually trying to do something to benefit humanity or whatever. That's an interesting thing to discuss. I don't know how he would, how to write it yet, because I haven't sat down to write it. But when I do, it's going to make for a really interesting discussion. Now, in Darkblade Justice, the last book that I wrote, a demon's like, hey, look, I am a demon. Sure, I get, all the shit that I've done, but this person is literally murdering children. Why are you coming after me when they're the one doing the bad things?
Mhm.
And the hunter's like, well, it's bad both. So, he's got an excuse for killing both of them. But it's a funny thing to think about when the things that are, could be perceived as evil, like the hunter could be very absolutely intractable in his decision to kill a demon. So he kills the demon that, had he left him alive, he could have used him to solve his mission or to, get some information or whatever. So it's, it leads to the thing. And it's all about the perspective in the end.
And it all comes down to the character's perspective and not necessarily our perspective.
Very
so
true.
In the Bizarre Blades, we have Finn Featherstone and Jade Whetstone. Jade is very logical. He's by the code. Finn is, literally, he drops into this, and he does not. He likes the code, but he will use his heart and go do something, even if it's kind of against what he's supposed to do. And I just wrote a scene where they're on a very time-sensitive mission, and Finn's like, we can't just leave these people here. We have to help them. And Jade's like, no, we have to go do this for the better good. And the conflict is there, so they just split apart, and it just ruins everything. And that's the first time it's happened. Usually they were able to come to a solution that, they could, work it out so they both win, but this time it just wasn't going to work. There was no give on either side. And so I wonder what the reader will believe is the right decision. Should they save the people, or should they do the mission that will save the world?
And in the end, it comes down to you taking them through the journey. I mean, the hunter faced that situation in Darkblade Savior. Kill 750 million people to save the world, or don't kill them. Sorry, 750,000 to save the world, or don't kill them and the world's going to be destroyed. What does he choose? And it's up to you, the author, to take the character that you're writing, their perspective through the emotional journey, to come to a conclusion, number one, that they can live with and that seems organic to their character. Like if Finn starts off his whole journey saving people, and he goes deeper and deeper into that, he's going to save people. If he doesn't, if you somehow find a way, or if you just say, well, all of a sudden he doesn't save people, it's wrong. If there's an actual explanation, okay, he's got a gaping wound in his side that he can't heal, and he's got no legs, and he's bleeding out, he's not going to go saving people. It's pretty, easy to understand. So it's all about
Monty Python thing.
Exactly.
The night.
It's all about how you explain the choices, because you can, in a way, you can almost rationalize any choice with the right explanation in a book, not in real life.
In real life, people try and rationalize their decisions all the time anyway. Yeah.
But so again, it just comes down to perspective.
With the right explanation and setup, you can make anything realistic, and something that well, not anything, but we've talked about the kick the puppy, murder the child moment that no one will ever be okay with. But pretty much anything.
Andy, are we doing the reading today?
Yes, we are. We should probably get to that now. Yes. Okay, so Tora, you are the director. So tell us, what part do you want to do? Do you want to do the narrator or one of the characters?
I can. Well, there's two guys in this, so one of you can take Istrin, who is the hero, and Keandrin, who is a whiny bastard.
Oh, please let me be the whiny bastard.
And then Roselia is the pack alpha. And
elephant?
Alpha.
Alpha.
I was going to say the pack elephant. That would be awesome. An awesome point of view character.
No, the squad pack alpha. So I can do her part, and if you want the narrator, I don't care.
And what character am I? What's the name?
Istrin.
Istrin, and who is Istrin?
Istrin is Roselia's second in command.
Okay.
And at one point wanted to be a lover, but they didn't make it.
So real quick, I had a quick announcement, and this is just to see who would be interested in this, but I'm going to be waking up earlier in the morning, and I'm considering doing a Twitch stream every day. I will type it in. It is Gooch Troll Gaming. The girlfriend helped me come up with that. Gooch Troll Gaming. Yeah, so if you like video games and you want to come and hang out, I'm going to start this up and see how it goes with my schedule. But yeah, it will be every morning at 8, and I will, of course, post in my group, if you're a part of it, what times are working for me. And yeah, I thought it'd be something cool so I can get my video gaming in. And, yeah. So that was my announcement.
Okay.
All right.
I bet Reshawn will like that.
So, Tora, take it away.
And just as a side note for other authors, do not do what I did with this series. I thought when I was writing the first one, it was really cool to have all the guys' names based on the keep that they were from. So they all sound the same.
Oh, no.
Learned that lesson well.
I did something similar with my first book, and I think Andy knows. Okay, so who's narrating?
So I'm narrating.
Okay.
Do it.
Roselia and Istrid pushed their squad pack and horses hard. They cantered for an octar, slowing into a trot for half an octar, then walked for a bit until the horses and riders caught their wind. Then they pushed back up into a trot, and then a canter, repeating the cycle throughout the day. At this pace, they would pass through their home territory within a day or two. The path they followed avoided any known nest sites, so today and tomorrow would be relatively safe travel days. Roselia noticed her Strunland pack mates were having no difficulty traveling at the fast pace, but Kandrin was struggling. Each time they stopped to give the horses a breather and water them, he'd complain bitterly about leaving so soon after they'd stopped. When Kandrin wasn't complaining, he was swearing at his horses. He was so bad the rest of the group rode ahead of him so they didn't have to listen to his foul mouth. Roselia and Istrid ignored the complaining the first time. The second time, she growled at him. The third time, it took both she and Istrid growling at him to get him back on his horse. They almost didn't blame him. It didn't matter which of his 2 horses he mounted. They shied away from him and bucked when he sat in the saddle. Each time would be worse than the last. Roselia had never seen such ill-mannered horses. The horses were so bad-tempered, she was considering asking the horsemaster at Strunland Keep for different horses. Late in the afternoon, they stopped to rest the horses one last time before reaching the safe house.
I've had enough of these evil horses,
Kandrin said, plopping on the ground.
You can't make me leave.
This spot isn't safe. Roselia turned, removing her foot from the stirrup. We can't stay here. Get up. Get on your horse and let's get moving. I want to get to the safe house before dark.
What are you scared of?
Kandrin jeered.
The monsters aren't active after sundown.
Tell me you're not that stupid. Roselia put a fist on her hip. The monsters aren't the only danger. Have you forgotten about Narhili Beast? I haven't. They'd tear us apart in our sleep if we stayed here. The beasts lived in the swamps during the day and hunted the surrounding area at night.
Hey.
Istrid bopped the back of Kandrin's head.
Haven't you been paying attention? The monsters aren't acting normal. Get up. We're moving.
Istrid turned his back and walked toward his horse, seeming not to hear Kandrin's growls. Kandrin surged to his feet.
How dare you hit me?
Istrid spun around, his narrowed eyes glowing a dark amber gold.
I am the Alpha. It is my place to punish the insolent curs.
Roselia was surprised at how calm he sounded. He looked at Kandrin's fisted hands.
Do you dare challenge the Alpha?
In answer, Kandrin leaped at Istrid, shifting in midair to his wolf form. Istrid stayed human and stood as still as the wolf sailed toward him. His large hand swung out and slammed into Kandrin's head, knocking him to the side. The wolf stood, shaking his head to clear it, then snarled at Istrid.
Really? That's all you got?
Istrid sneered. He still didn't shift. Roselia wondered what he was waiting for, until she realized it would be more humiliating for him to trounce Kandrin while still human. He had guts. Kandrin wouldn't know what hit him. Even as a human, Istrid was a formidable fighter. She felt a new power rising within her, that of the female alpha. She cast the alpha magic over the clearing, preventing Kandran or any other male from shifting into warrior form. From her training, she knew it was to keep the men from tearing each other into bits. Istron, not taking his eyes off Kandran, nodded. He'd sensed her magic. Kandran snarled again and charged. Istron ducked under Kandran and threw him across the clearing. He landed with a thump and slid, hitting a tree so hard that leaves tumbled to the ground. Kandran staggered to his feet. He tried shifting into his warrior form and snarled at Roselia when he couldn't. Snarl? He changed direction and launched himself at her. Istron intercepted the wolf's paw and punched his muzzle. Blood dripped from Kandran's fangs. He howled, then rushed Istron. The wolf again went flying into a tree, swiping at Istron as he went by. Istron shook his hand, spraying droplets of blood. This time, when Kandran charged, Istron caught him and lifted him high. The wolf whined in terror. Istron, remember not to kill him, Roselia called out. She could see the anger burning in his eyes. Istron struggled for a moment, then dropped the wolf. As soon as Kandran hit the ground, Istron kneeled on his body, hand on his throat. The wolf glared at him as Istron applied more pressure. Not looking away from Kandran, he said to Roselia,
I won't if this cur yields. If not, he is dead.
Kandran finally lowered his eyes and whined. When Istron stood up, the wolf lowered his head to the ground, tail tucked between his legs, fully subservient. Istron walked to the small creek and washed the blood off his hands. Come on, Roselia said to the rest of her pack. Let's go. She hadn't known Istron was so strong. It surprised her how fast he cowed Kandran's wolf. The wolf was nearer to the surface as the men in the fighting packs, and fighting among themselves was common. Only incredibly strong alphas could fight a wolf while human. Istron's crouch caught her attention. He looked ready to run, and his breath came in quick pants. His wild eyes followed the source of his fear, Istron. She hurried over to Istron and grabbed his arms. Looking into his eyes, she used her alpha magic to spin calm around him. In a soft voice, she said, Istron, be easy. There's nothing to run from. It's just Istron. You know he won't hurt you. He closed his eyes and took a shuddering breath.
I'm okay now, Roselia,
he said, his eyes not meeting hers.
He really is scary. He seemed so friendly, and then that.
Another shudder went through him, and he turned away, gathering his horse's reins and mounted. Dehali and Lestril were both already in the saddle. Kandran hadn't moved and was still whining. She stalked over to him and snapped, What's wrong with you? Shift back and get on your horse. Move it now. He had forced Istron to almost kill him. He tucked his tail in further and whined more.
Roselia,
Istron called.
You can't change. You have to release your hold.
Oh. She hadn't realized the alpha magic had also kept the men from shifting into or out of their wolf forms. She thought it only affected their warrior forms. She didn't apologize to Kandran as she let it go. Panting, Kandran shifted back into human. He lay still, taking shallow breaths. A bruise was beginning to show on his throat where Istron had held him down. He struggled to his feet, holding his ribs tight. Keeping his eyes down, he said,
Alpha, I think you broke my ribs.
Roselia could hear a faint snarl in his voice. Even though Istron had beat and humiliated Kandran, he hadn't learned Istron was truly his alpha and the better man. If he tried to fight Istron again, he would be killed. You'll live. Leostrel, wrap his ribs for him. We don't have time for this belly aching. Leostrel climbed off her horse and rummaged in her pack. Pulling out the first aid kit, she ran over to Kandran. Anybody want to do her voice?
Lift up your shirt,
she ordered. He started to growl, and Roselia smacked him on the head. Behave. She's helping you. Kandran took off his shirt. His entire torso was a livid bruise from hitting a tree a few times. Dehali whispered.
That's going to hurt, like the crone's fires.
Leostrel began wrapping Kandran's ribs.
Oh, quit whimpering. You asked for it. You're lucky to be alive. Damn, he has control.
Istron stomped through the clearing to Jazan, leapt into the saddle, and rode off. Roselia stopped Dehali from going with him. He'll be fine. Let him be. We'll catch up to him soon enough. She looked at the slowly moving Kandrin and put a bit of command in her voice. That is, if this one gets a move on it. She wasn't in the mood to be sympathetic. He had hurt her friend. One of the reasons Eistron hadn't wanted to become an alpha was that he was stronger than most, and he didn't like fighting to prove dominance. He tried hard to be a likable, nice guy, and smelling Eistron's fear would have hurt Eistron even more. Eistron had to help Kandrin get on his horse. They left the clearing and rode on.
Very nice. So the names, is it the last part of their name that tells where they're from?
Uh-huh. So, Eistron and Eidstron are from Stranel Keep.
Okay, cool. And do you have a map too?
I have one, but I haven't printed it out yet because it's just one that I drew.
So I got you. That's nice.
So one of the things I'd like to do is get a map maker and get it made. But because it's one continent.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to figure out where everything was in the story.
I got you. Yeah. So
they've got the northern part is up in the north is mountains. In the center are plains, and far to the south is a swamp. And to get to the swamp, you have to cross the barrens, which nothing lives or survives. And it's from their last great war and the magic that happened that exiled their enemies, completely obliterated all life.
And Rosalia.
Mm-hmm.
Rosalia is the alpha?
Yes, in their society, it's actually a pair where a male and a female have to be alpha.
Cool.
So you have to keep alphas, and then you have the clan alphas. And then the women do magic, and the type of elemental magic that they can do is determined by their hair and eye color. So red hair and brown eyes, like Rosalia has auburn red hair and brown eyes, so she can do fire magic and some earth magic.
Okay, so there can be a mixture of these colors. Mm-hmm. What if they're all red? What if they're all red?
Then
does that mean they have more?
Yeah, they're very strong in fire.
See, I love that kind of stuff in books. That's really cool.
So if they have yellow hair, then they do air magic. Blue hair would be water magic.
No electrical. Huh?
You froze for just a second.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So grays are the mind workers. Whites are the priestesses, and there's only women who are whites.
Okay.
And then the blacks would have everything, but the blacks have been extinct for a long time.
Very nice. And I'm sure they come back, maybe, hopefully, right?
Book 4.
Uh-oh. Cool. So if you would like to check out Tora Moon's book, it will be in the description. And book 1 is called Ancient Enemies. And the series is called Legends of Larheim.
Lairheim.
I'm sorry, Lairheim. That's Lairheim. Tora Moon, why don't you tell us where people can find you?
They can find me. Books are all on Amazon, Kobo. They're on any retailer. You can find them.
Very nice.
You can find my website at www.toramoon, TORAMOON.com. And awesome. I also have a Facebook author page, the same name, Tora Moon.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Tora Moon. It's been an honor, and I had a freaking blast. You have such a professional kit, and it's been great just listening to your voice, actually. That doesn't sound creepy at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. But thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, I'll start counting to 10 before I say things. But anyway, so I'm going to end it there again. So this has been Tora Moon. You can find her at toramoon.com. Also, her books are on Amazon, and I will have a link in the description below. And announcement, if you are interested in Gooch Troll Gaming, please send me a message on Facebook and tell me you'd be interested. That would be 8 a.m. Central. And also, go watch Spider-Man. Go watch it. It's so good.
Don't spoil anything. We'll talk about it.
I gotta tell you. I want to talk about it.
I'm going to watch it tonight.
Dude, if you're a Spidey fan, you're going to love it. Go watch it. That's everyone's homework. All right. Thank you, Tora, for being on the air.
Right.
Andy.
Thank you much. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Andy, you have a great week. You handsome. Wait, are we doing something tomorrow?
No, there's no podcast tomorrow. There's no podcast next week. We'll be back on July 18th with the one and only Michael J. Sullivan.
Oh, that guy's awesome. Great
Very
books.
excited.
And also I will be doing live videos, and I'm sure Andy will too, just to give you guys a dose of you can't just go a week without Andy and Stevie, right? I'll definitely go live at one of these points, and also you could see me 8 a.m. and I'll definitely post something on Colliers Conquerors if that is going to happen. Anyways, guys, that is the Fantasy Fiends podcast. We love you all. Go watch Spider-Man and go grab Tora Moon's book. Thank you so much, Tora, and everybody have a great night.